evening and welcome to Real Talk, where every Sunday night we offer insight, education, and resources to in-home caregivers and those that are affected in their world. This is for the children, the parents, and the extended family. And our goal is to offer real-life topics, real-life information, and learning through discussing this and then offering real solutions. Tonight, I'm really excited to talk to our guest and my friend, Daniel Butcher, who is possibly more well-known as one of the few men working successfully in the nanny world and who was a Manny before having an agency. And he has gone on to do a lot of really amazing things in the in-home staffing world. He founded Angeles Nannies and more recently has transitioned into a full-blown agency. Although he always placed nannies, there was the concept that he didn't. And he's doing some really other amazing things and work in a variety of areas. And that's kind of where we're going to focus our topic tonight. But before we get into our learning topic, first off, welcome, Daniel. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you. That was amazing. I came off really well in that. You've done that before. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Good, did you? So I'm going to ask you in just a second to tell us some more about a lot of the really cool things that are going on right now in your life, because there's been a lot of things that I've seen you get involved with. But first, probably the best and the coolest, we want to congratulate you on your marriage.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you finally tie the knot with Camille. And
yep.
I know that both Todd and I could not be more excited for you. So
I'm so happy. I'm really happy. It's pretty insane.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Especially in the middle of a pandemic, right?
Yeah, we just, we toyed with the idea so much, and we were just like, you know what? Let's just do it.
Yep.
Let's just get on with our life, business as usual.
Absolutely, it changes everything. So take a moment and tell us a little bit about where you came from, because anybody listening who may not have met you before already knows that you were not born here or grew up in the United States. Kind of how you ended up here and what you're doing now.
Okay, so for the first 20 years of my life, I was doing my thing in a small town called Ipswich in England. I went to university. I got a degree in psychology and forensic science. I decided to travel, came to America, met a girl, fell in love, moved here, broke up, stayed, got a job as a babysitter, then a nanny, then a family assistant, then a house manager. And then I was kind of doing fill-in babysitting, nanny work here and there for other families. And then when I couldn't do everything, I decided to help them find someone. So I just went on Craigslist, put in an ad, connected them, and she gave me some money, and she was like, yeah, that's an amazing service. Here's $500. I was like, wow, $500. Like, I was very kind of basic at this point. And then she was like, yeah, you're way cheaper than an agency. So then I Googled what is an agency, and I went through that whole route. Fast forward to today, agencies are kind of taking a little bit of a hit with everything that's going well. Everyone's taking a bit of a hit. So I decided to take different elements of the agency process, split them up into their key components, and then really drill down and focus on each component individually, and then offer that as a service to both agencies and nannies. And that's essentially what I'm working on at this point.
Fantastic. So we're going to kind of dig into our topic for tonight. And the overview of our topic is kind of what agencies and families are looking for when they review you. But you and I are going to kind of stick more to the nuts and bolts, the black and white, the resumes, the portfolios, reference checks, social media, that sort of thing, rather than the kind of bigger, broader overview. So we're going to kind of dig into those things.
Okay.
And one of the things that we hear a lot of times in the nanny world is, I had to submit a resume. I had to do it in this format. I had to change that format. I don't know what goes on my resume. How do I do that? And then we hear a lot of times, wow, I submitted everything. I feel like I've kind of slipped through the cracks. So what I want to do is kind of focus on how do we increase our chances of landing an interview? What are the things that really are making a difference? And one of the big things, and one of the things I know you've been focusing on lately, is resumes. So let's talk about resumes. Tell me everything that somebody watching this needs to know about their resume and what an agency or a family might be looking for.
Okay, the first thing I would say is everyone's probably curious how long their resume should be. And that's probably one of the worst questions I could think of, because there really isn't a magic answer. And they're extremely personal things that you're handing to someone to essentially explain your professional life to them. But in terms of the size of a resume, my first question is, what size font are you using? Like, are you using a size 8 or are you using a size 20? So like that question, I don't really tend to answer it, because it's kind of like nobody's right and nobody's wrong. You could have a 10-page resume, but call it a portfolio and you'll be okay. Or you could have a 1-pager and you try and squeeze on 40 years of experience on there. So like, it's a little tricky in that regard. And then also, to try and increase your chances, it would depend on who you're sending that resume to. Because if you're sending it to an agency and it's beautiful and you have put a lot of personal touches in there and you give it to them as a PDF and you're like, and it looks great, but to an agency, they just look at that as a headache, honestly, because now we have to, the majority of agencies use their standard format, which I know is a pain for nannies also. But spoiler alert, one of my plans for the next 5 years is to create a standard resume template that all agencies will use. So wish me luck on that.
Yeah. The nanny will love you if you do, I promise.
I have some ideas to make it a reality. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, to an agency, one of those beautifully presented resumes is just a headache for us. What agencies need is just clear, concise, very well laid out, black and white, Word document, Google Doc, something that can be very easily edited and chopped around, because we have to do things to your resume, because it's our job to present you in the best possible light. We have to just display your information very clearly and concisely. And the more you do that for us, the more we'll want to turn you around and get you out. If the resume is great and the experience is great and you're great, all the other boxes are checked. So I would say for a resume, ask for their format. It's going to be pretty simple. It's probably going to be key qualifications, bio, experience, education, hobbies and interests, and then any courses you've done. That's pretty much it. And they don't care what it looks like. They just need the information. They'll get to know you as a person in the other stages, but that information is just key. And then for families, you can do the more personal touch. I feel you can throw some color in there. You can kind of just make it look more visually appealing, because parents are the key decision makers at the end of the day. So you really want to stand out from the pack of resumes that they will no doubt be looking at.
Right.
Because especially now with the global issues we're facing, I know that a lot of people are losing their jobs, professional jobs in offices. And when push comes to shove and they realize that it's going to be really hard to get another job, they're probably a lot of people are going to fall back onto the quote unquote low skilled positions, which unfortunately in this day and age still, a lot of people believe childcare to be one of those professions. So the market, I feel, is going to be absolutely bombarded with a lot of people that have been out of the game for a long time and they're ready to get back into it. So they may have other skills from other areas of their life, like maybe tech or design, or they've just spent more time on computers because they've been working in an office and they have 2 kids and they know how to look after kids. So I think that a lot of these people that are able to present themselves visually on paper are going to have less experience, but I think they might have a leg up on the people that have just been childcare for so many years, and the last thing they really know how to do is create something visually appealing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if I'm hearing you right, a couple of things. One is that a resume for an agency can have the same information as a resume for a family, but the design needs to be simple, clear, and in a Word or a Google Doc, because an agency needs to manipulate that information. And if I understand kind of how this works, and I will be the first to say, I haven't worked directly with an agency for many, many years because I haven't needed that. But most of our audience needs that or wants that, right?
Yeah.
You're not talking changing their facts. You're just talking putting it into a standard format that you then turn around and share to the families that makes them look the best that they possibly can, correct?
Correct. You can't change facts.
Right.
Yeah, you can't change facts. We don't. I can't speak for all agencies. I get some pushback from nannies that have spent a lot of time on their resume. They're like, but I have it just how I like it. I don't want to give it to you, have you rip all the information out and send over just a plain black and white of my information, because it doesn't really show me as a person, which I very, very much understand that. And there are agencies that don't manipulate the data that they're presenting to a client. The reason I do it is because I don't want the presentation of the document to give anybody more, a client to be more attracted to that resume because it has like stars and balloons on it, and they use some really cool font that's like super funky. So yeah, people give me pushback, but I'm just like, look, I'm not changing your resume because I don't like it. Like, don't take it personally. I'm just making this very easy to families. And if they want to look at 5 resumes and just flick through, they know that education is in the top left-hand corner because it's on the same on all of them. So rather than send them 5 resumes that haven't been formatted, they're like, okay, education is here. Next one, educate. I don't even see like, did she even have education? And then the next, like, so we just keep it consistent for the clients.
Right. And I think that makes it easier for the client to go through things quickly and go, this one has the education I'd ideally like to have. This one does too. Oh, this one doesn't, so that they can narrow that down. And then the nanny or the NCS or the whatever staff position might be being filled can really stand out and let themselves shine when it becomes more personal and one-on-one with the family, correct?
Yes, and that's why we have them write a short bio about themselves, because there does have to be some personalization in there, and I do put the bio at the very top right next to their picture. And yes, I do add pictures to the resumes as well as an agency.
So one of the things that you mentioned just a little bit ago was a portfolio. And a lot of nannies and a lot of newborn care specialists will ask me, do I have to have a portfolio? Does it matter? Does it make a difference? And if I do, what goes in one? And I'm like, I think that might be market dependent. It might be agency dependent. I'm not positive because I've been in the NCS world for so long that I have a nanny portfolio, but it's from 2003 when I was nominated for Nanny of the Year, and it's 100+ pages long. And that's overkill for what most nannies need. So let's talk about portfolios. Do nannies and newborn care specialists and other staff professionals need to have a portfolio? And if so, what should it be?
You don't need anything. Like, people ask me, do I need a website? I'm like, you don't need anything. It's just an extra feather in your hat. It's amazing to have. It's good practice. You definitely should have one, but you don't need one, I don't believe. And what should go in it? I think a lot of people overthink what a portfolio is, and a lot of people hear this word and it's just like, oh, a portfolio. But basically, my portfolio that I have, that isn't quite as old as yours, but I haven't used it in a while, is it's, what is that? Let's have a look. It's my resume, 3 pages. lot of information on there. And then it's my letters of recommendation. Then it's a reference sheet with the numbers corresponding to which letters they are related to. And then if it's just a number without a letter, then it just says call only or email. The next page are my certificates, and I threw a few like fun ones in there too, because I didn't want it all to be business. So as like my skydiving certificate and my scuba diving certificate from back in the day, and like things like that, and certificates when I like climb mountains in a certain amount of time, marathons, half marathons, and things like that. And then there are a few. What else did I have? I think I even have a few recipes in there, like super easy go to. I can whip this up because a lot of families, when it comes to males, even as from the agency standpoint, so many parents ask me if men can do the more domesticated roles in a home, which is always fun. I'm like, yes, we can. Not like I have a picture of me putting clothes in a washer or anything crazy, but you just have to, anything you think that they might ask, if you can do it, you just have to have that information ready to show, yes, I can do it. I'm trying to think what else I should have in my resume, but no, as long as you're covered on the certificates, the courses, your education, because everything's electronic now. I do remember that back when I made mine, I did make a sheet of all my courses with the logos. So when they click the logos, it just takes them to that course so they can read all about it. Just so, because anyone can be like, I took the masterclass with Tanya, and then the families are like, okay, like, I'm sure Tanya's great. No offense, Tanya, we all know you are, but people don't know who you are out there in the main world, parents.
Right.
So I link all the courses I do. I link to the course on the website, course content, so they can read all the little minutiae and what goes into achieving that certificate.
Right.
Which people really like that, actually. I didn't get to send out to too many people, but the people I did send it to thought it was really good. So that's something that I would recommend, just because you can't put all the information into one place. It's kind of like a homepage, you're not going to have everything on the homepage. You have buttons and you have clicks and you have links to like spider web out into the greater understanding of what these courses mean, for example.
Absolutely. And I love your suggestion of not just having your certificates, but having fun things in there also. And my portfolio is similar in that I have recipes, I have activities that I have done. I have all the forms that I created when I worked with families, like emergency contact forms and, I'm out sick today and there's a temp nanny filling in. Here's what you need to know, things like that. And my letters of recommendation, I have those, but I also have letters of recommendations from the kids written in crayon.
Yeah, I have one of those. They're phenomenal.
Yeah,
they're
those
the best.
Are the best.
Cards, old birthday cards and stuff like that. Things like that are just priceless.
And
they
those
really
are
are.
the things that show your personality and allow the family to kind of go, wow, I think this could be a good fit.
You have to have that personal connection.
Right.
And if someone looks through your portfolio and you really feel like your personality shines in your portfolio, and then it's great and everyone has given you rave reviews about your portfolio, but you hand it to a parent for a 6-figure job or something and they're like, pass, then don't be upset, because that family is not the one for you. If you threw your heart out there on paper and they pass on you, you should be happy that they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So many people take it personally when they don't get a job that they really wanted, but it's always a blessing. Obviously I can say that very easily because you can't see the alternative because you don't have the job, but I feel like it's just a blessing. It really is.
I agree. So let's talk for a minute about references and reference checks, because you can have the most amazing resume in the world, but if an agency or a family can't get a hold of your references, or maybe doesn't get the information that you were hoping to get, how does that impact the whole job search and what agencies and families are dealing with?
Bold statement on my part, but I believe after doing this for a while, and I do not enjoy calling references. It's extremely labor intensive and a little frustrating. But I believe reference checking to be the most important part of the screening process of a nanny, of anyone actually, because you can sit with them in a room or virtually for an hour, hour and a half. Like I can fake anything for an hour and a half, you know, just to but I can't fake my life and I can't fake my history and I can't fake the 3-year reference I have from this family. And references have so much knowledge about a candidate in their mind that you can learn a lot about somebody in a 5-minute phone call with a reference.
Yep.
And
even if the only thing you learn it through is the tone of voice that you hear while you're having the conversation sometimes. Yeah,
that's why some of our families that we help find nannies for, even though we've done the reference check and we have written it all down and, you know, we speak to them on the phone, they're like, they really like the way they were speaking about her on the phone is just phenomenal. Like they still want to speak to them because they want to do it family to family, employer to employer. Like they need to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We now actually record our reference calls. So if they do want to hear it, we just send them the recording. And then if they want to still speak to them, then we can set it up.
Right. Interesting. I haven't heard of anybody else doing that, but I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, we check for a few other, I check for a few other agencies, and yeah, we tell the reference at the start of the phone call, your call is recorded for quality and training purposes and, you know, to use for employment purposes. So they all have to give consent and then we have the recording.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another thing that kind of came up in the beginning that you mentioned that I think it's important to talk about is gaps in your work history, gaps in your resume. And I'll use myself as an example. When my son was born almost 16 years ago, he had some medical issues. And that required that I pull way, way back for the first couple of years of his life. And I only did a few just random consultations here and there, but I essentially completely stepped out of the industry for a couple of years solid. Mm-hmm. How do you address that in a resume? What should somebody do if they're facing that? Or maybe they've been working in an office for the last 4 years, but they have solid nanny experience prior to that. If they're coming back in, how do they deal with that?
Just be honest. Don't try and, because the second I see a gap on a resume and I'm like, what were you doing between this time and this time? Everyone usually gets so bashful or not ashamed, but they kind of shy away from answering me. And that's a red flag. Like, just be honest. Say whatever it is, just say it, because we're not here to really judge you or think less of you or more of you. Like, were you unemployed for a year and you couldn't find a job? That's fine. Like, that's happened to me in the past. Like, it's not a bad thing. You had to go and look after your ailing parents. That's fine too. Like, I feel like so many people in an interview, if we're not talking about childcare or how best to look after children and previous jobs, and I get it, it's a fine line because you have to be very cautious on what you ask or even how you ask it. But I think it's just good for somebody to not be so worried about why there's a gap. And if they are worried, then why are they worried? Because then we start to get suspicious. So we're like, why aren't you telling us? We know that. And then the really frustrating part is the reference checking part, where they say they worked for someone for 4 years, and then we called them and they worked for them for 4 years, but once every 2 months when the family want to go watch a movie, you know, what were they doing for the other lots of hours during that time, you know? So honesty is just the best. Like, it's necessary, and if you try and hide something, if an agency or a family does their job right, they'll find out, and then you don't have the job.
Right. And not only
Because
do you not have the job, but you likely don't have an agency representing you anymore either, right?
yeah, I think people like there's such a disconnect between agencies and nannies. Nannies are always saying agencies need us, they need to look after us, they need to treat us with, treat us like professionals, like we are. And then agencies are just trying to make money and help people by getting them jobs. So I do feel like agencies kind of hold on to information that they feel we don't need to know. But it's kind of like you see it all in the movies with the lawyers and stuff where they get someone on the stand and the defense counsel asks them a question and they answer it. And then the prosecution's like, or the other way around, like, why didn't you divulge this? We could have worked with this. We could have figured something out. And they're like, oh, I didn't know. Like, we are your attorneys. If you had a DUI and you're embarrassed about it, tell us, because I've placed a few nannies with DUIs. The only one I didn't place is when we found out on the background check, and me and the parent had no idea.
Mhm.
Everyone else that told me up front, I told the parent, we ran the check, we found the DUI, parent signed off on it, and we were all good.
Right. So if I'm hearing you right, what I'm hearing is as an agency, you're not looking for perfection. You're looking for the perfect nanny for that family. And it's okay if there's a gap in the history, or it's okay if not every single thing is perfect, as long as they're honest about it and they tell you up front and it's something you feel you can work with. Do I have that kind of right?
I would say so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think just honesty is the best policy. Give us all the information. We will disseminate it, package it up, and present it to the client to make you look in the best possible light with what we have to work with. Just tell us everything.
Right. So I want to talk to you a minute about something that is kind of a soapbox topic for me. Um, let's talk about the nanny world, the NCS world, the in-home staffing world, and social media.
Uh, all right. What's the question?
Well, it's a soapbox for me because I'm always telling people, and this relates to the resume and the portfolio and everything else. If you expect to be treated like a professional and paid like a professional and to get professional benefits, you need to behave like a professional. And you and I both know that
Mhm.
what you put out on social media is not private, no matter how private you think it is.
Mhm.
So there's also a school of thought in the nanny world. Well, I should get to be who I am, and they should like me for who I am. And if they don't, I'm not the right fit. And I get that. I understand that point.
Mhm.
But if you're looking at somebody up front and they say to you, hey, do I need to change anything on my social media? Or is there anything that should or should not be there? Or what's your viewpoint on me even having social media? What would you tell them?
Um, I would say, do you need social media in your life? And if they say no, I'm just like, well, get rid of it.
Um,
Just, just get rid of it. But most people need it in their life, or they feel they really need it. So yeah, you can go crazy. You can get buck wild and have a really amazing time. I mean, we've been to conference, like we have a good time, but we don't then turn around and post it online, or we don't share the like. You can do crazy things, just don't post the crazy things online. And if you do, and a family passes on you because of said crazy thing, whatever it is, that's that's their prerogative, and you put it out there, so you have to deal with what comes back to you based on that. Like, if you really need to show the world something so badly that you need to put it out there on social media, private or not, you're going to have to expect that your clients are going to see it. And if they're not, there's going to be a nanny that doesn't like you for whatever reason, and they'll just send it to them, because some people just like to cause a ruckus for no reason. So if you're putting it out there, you just have to assume. Like, I say the same thing when there's when you go into somebody's house and you're working. Like, just assume that there's always a camera on you. Like, act like you're being watched the whole time. And it's the same with social media. The second you put anything out there, you're being watched.
Yeah.
Like, they might not be focused on that at that point, but it's recorded, it's logged, it's cataloged. Like, if they haven't seen it now, they're going to see it in the future because it's internet's forever.
Yeah. The people who don't think that this stuff is forever, or, oh, I deleted it, you might have deleted it, but it's not gone. And
I have some screenshots from things that have been out there in the world, and I know for a fact that they're going to get taken down soon. So I just quickly screenshot them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not in the, well, some in the nanny community actually, but mostly in like other life things. Just like, this is wild, snap, and then 5 minutes later it's gone.
Right.
I'm like, wow.
I did a presentation for INA on this topic, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I challenged nannies in a nanny group that were not Facebook friends with me and thought that their social media was locked down.
That's a fun game.
To send me a link. And I got a written thing saying that they were willing to let me utilize that, whatever I found. And it was amazing what I found on social media. I knew their birth dates, their wedding dates, the dates of their kids. I knew where they'd been that day for lunch. And I was like, look at this. You have no idea. So even when we think it's private, it's not. It can be screenshot, and it exists somewhere in the cyber world forever. And there's a lot more people utilizing that to check people out than they realize. Now,
it can disqualify you. You could be the best person for that family in the world, but if they see a picture of you with, like, and it could be, and like, that's the thing, it's so subjective.
Yeah.
Like, it could be a glass of wine and a cigarette, and they're like, whoa, she drinks and smokes?
Right?
No.
Yeah.
Like, so it just, same with a background check. I've placed people with DUIs and it's fine. And I've had someone lose a job at the very last point. Like, it was the last thing we had to do, and she got a ticket for a rolling stop, and the whole placement came crashing down over this. And I'm just like, it's fine. Like, this is the parent, and she doesn't feel comfortable with someone driving her children who got a ticket at a rolling stop. And then there's some who's like, I don't think my nanny's going to be drinking on the job and getting a DUI of my kids. I think she's trustworthy. So it's just so personal, and you think you have a silver bullet that just makes you appealing to all the families out there, but nobody does, because how can you?
I'm a big believer both in the NCS world and the nanny world that there's literally a new potential client that's born every second. And
more so soon.
When it's the right family for the right situation, it will work. And when it doesn't, I know it's hard to not take it personally, but you are 100% right. You have to step back and just say, you know what? I probably would not have been happy in this situation. And so it's probably not the right fit.
Yeah. Like, if you want someone to love you in a romantic way, and you want them to love you so much and they just don't, I mean, how long would you stay with that person for? Like, like, I mean, we can get really meta with it, and I can actually put my psychology degree to good use, but I don't want to do that today. But you just can't. Like, you can't. I thought everyone liked me in the world until I started running a nanny agency, and when I started getting my face out there, some people I found weren't really fond of me as a person. And and I've never felt that before, so that was kind of a reality check for me, which was really interesting. I was like, how can I get this person to like me? And now, like, 3 years in, I'm just like, the world's crazy. Not everyone's going to like me. I don't even like me some days. So I totally get it. And that's fine. I'll just stick to the people that I like and like me back. And it's the same with every single section of your life, really.
Yeah, for sure. So there has been some really valuable information shared tonight. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience? Any final point you want to leave them with?
Can we do this again? I have like a sheet of points, and I did the top one only. So if you want to do this again, let me know. I have stuff. But I would say if you need to have your resume and you don't have much money, because nobody does right now because the world's crazy, send it over to me. And because what I'm doing right now is I'm making quick videos on my phone to basically look at someone's resume, basically take it all apart, be like, move this here, put this here, change this font. You have 4 fonts on here, you have 5 different font sizes. This is crazy. Move your contact information up here, remove, like, I do that for everyone that sends me a resume. And now for anyone that decides to utilize that and allows me to use that video on the mynannyresume.com website, we'll recreate them a resume for free.
Awesome.
So I'll leave it with that.
Fantastic. And we're going to have all that information in the feed so that it'll be pinned there and people can find that information if they're interested. But
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Daniel. It has really been an honor to have you and to learn with you tonight.
Thank you. I put this off for a while. I know you've been asking, but I felt like I was ready now.
Yeah, well, you've been a little busy, so we'll cut you a little slack.
Thank you.
So if you are watching this tonight and you have any questions for Daniel about this topic, about resumes, about interviewing, anything about it, or anything related to maybe working with him in finding a new nanny position, put them in the feed and tag him or tag Newborn Care Solutions, and we'll make sure that Daniel gets that information. And if you are wanting to rewatch this segment, share it, or catch any of our past Real Talk segments, along with accessing any of our other content, pop on over to newborncaresolutions.com and click on the Education tab. You can find all of our resources there. So thanks for joining us tonight. Have a fantastic evening.